that are leveled against people like Ilhan Omar and Jeremy Corbyn across the pond, like the insane double standard this is not covered and condemned by every like media outlet as just blatantly anti-Semitic, and like based on this standard, like they should be, this is the standard they set for Ilhan Omar especially, and Jeremy Corbyn across the pond. Like this guy should be run out of politics, but no, it will not happen. I believe this is a North Carolina representative, so will not be going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, he's North Carolina's. I believe it's 12th. He's in Mark Meadows' former district.
Yeah, so this is a
That's
guy.
Why,
this is a guy who.
Yeah,
this is a guy like this is a guy who he doesn't even go to the globalists or George Soros stage. He goes beyond that. Cawthorn, in an interview with Jewish Insider, was asked whether he'd ever converted Jewish people to Christianity as a follow-up to his earlier assertion that you're probably not really a Christian unless you go out proselytizing, so converting people. I have unsuccessfully. I've searched a lot of, I guess, culturally Jewish people. He reportedly answered with a laugh. But being a practicing Jew, like people who are religious about it, they are very difficult. I've had a hard time connecting with them in that way. So, yeah, really, really good stuff there. To be perfectly clear, that is, again, this is sort of an anti-Semitism that's so blatant and unapologetic, it can paradoxically be easy for some to miss. The code words and dog whistles that people have trained themselves to identify aren't even at play here, and in their absence, Cawthorn's straightforward admission that he doesn't consider anyone who doesn't go out and try and end Judaism as a religion to be a Christian. Like, that is someone, like, what I want to know here is, where are the alarm bells? Where are the people being like, this representative hates Jews, like is an existential threat to Jewish life, and if there's any Jews in his district, they should pack up and leave now. Like, where are those alarm bells? Because this guy is insane, is he not?
Yeah, I mean, he's very crazy. I mean, because not only I believe actually, like, when he won, he was like "Crime More Lives." I remember that was his like front cover portrait that he had going for himself after he won his election.
Yeah.
By the way, in a Republican plus like 14 district, but he
won
by like, I think like 12%.
That's shocking. Like we never saw that coming.
But like he also won by like such a small margin, given the fact that he's in a very Republican congressional district in North Carolina. But he is definitely going to be an interesting character in DC, because he's also been repeatedly on the rails to QAnon, on top of the people that we have in Georgia, right, with Kelly Loeffler, who embraced QAnon with her good friend Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's actually going to Congress as well. So we're going to have two characters, Madison Cawthorn and Marjorie Taylor Greene, battling out the QAnon vote.
Yeah, all we know is that Madison Cawthorn, whatever he does, he doesn't do things lightly. He stands up and he really fights. Oh no, wait, he can't stand up. Oh, my bad. Anyway, according to the Jewish Insider here, in the same interview, Cawthorn had to be actively convinced to allow the paper to publish the fact that he had read the Quran. And he's just too embarrassed to say it. Like, he thought, oh my God, my buddies are going to kill me for this back home if I admit that I've read the Quran. Like, this is just so embarrassing. He apparently tried to do it in an effort to make it easier for him to convert Muslims to Christianity. The thing I found out when I actually was reading through the Quran is that Christianity is a very easy switch to make to lead a Muslim to Christ. He explained, adding later, that he successfully converted several Muslims to Christ because of that. This is all fine and good because, as Cawthorn bragged in his regards to his own upbringing, my family is a bunch of true freaking believers. It's Christians that are, like, fun to be around. Woohoo! Yeah, that's awesome. Like, he's literally, like, he's taking it upon himself to, like, single-handedly restart the missionary posture of, yeah. And I just saw James Weld, our good friend and contributor SWN, killing it on the comment section with two great comments. He also helpfully reminding me that he has numerous sexual assault allegations, which is from a kind of guy like this. No way, right? He with the I do remember now that he brings up the immortal quote that he's like something along the lines of like, yeah, I tried to kiss a few women. Like everyone does that when they're young. Like and sometimes it doesn't work out, but it's okay. It's no big deal. Which is just great. Yeah. So, lest Cawthorn's various ultra-Christian attempts to erase other faiths worry you, he also has a strong and incredibly grounded sense of his place in his country's narrative arc. Because, as he says, he is a lover of history, which is pretty awesome. I'm personally a lover of history. It's incredible to be in a place where we had the vote to decide to have the Emancipation Proclamation, where we decided to go to World War II, where civil rights battles were fought. And of course, literally, this lover of history, again, forgetting that the Emancipation Proclamation never got a vote because it was an executive order issued by Lincoln that never got a vote in the House. Like, does he think that civil rights were just kind of fought only on story battlefields between the congressional cloakrooms and the podium and not in the streets of Birmingham and the lunch counters of Greensboro? Like, very kind of strange and backwards like perception of history. It's just like the history perception there of a second grader, which is no surprise. Just really the deadly combination here, I think, with Madison Cawthorn. You have the deadly combination of the peak Republican, every single toxic aspect of the modern Republican mixed into one. Sexual predator, idiot, like frat party goon, and also incredibly racist and anti-Semitic. That is like the holy trinity. You cannot get more peak conservative than that. So this is his. We'll end this here on his political mission statement. This is, again, word for word. I think kind of an overarching value you can say is freedom. But it's more just strong conservative ideas, but delivered empathetically, that also take into account that not everybody has the same life or lifestyle or the same experiences, and we need to do the best for we can for everybody. But there are certain people in our community we need to cater to, which is not a hugely winning argument among the deep red conservative base. But really, my accident really showed me that there are people who struggle with some things that you just can't know about unless you lived it. And so that's my big message, he says. Yeah, can't wait to see what this guy gets up to in Congress. It will be special. Absolutely special. So looking forward to the Cawthorn Green age of the next 2 years. Speaking of right-wing people in high places, Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito. He is, I mean, we know things are tough, right? Very, very glad that we have a sober-minded face guarding some of our most vital institutions. For example, Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito. If you don't know about him, he's been on the bench since 2005. He's been a lifetime appointment of the most powerful institution in America. Besides that, of the presidency itself, arguably, I'd say, more powerful. He and his fellow unelected colleagues have virtually unchecked authority of the rest of us. And thank God, then, Samuel Alito is someone whose reasoned, careful, and balanced approach to his task guides his every move. And because he was appointed not by evil Republican Donald Trump, but by the wonderful, awesome, moderate, reasonable Republican George Bush, we can trust him, of course. He provided no better example of his trustworthiness than in a speech he delivered on Thursday night to a gathering of my personal favorite group, the Federalist Society. The group that is probably more responsible for the conservative takeover of the judicial branch more than anybody else. And so here is what he has to say about same-sex marriage and about what the Supreme Court has done with regards to that. Let's take a quick listen.
You can't say that marriage is a union between one man and one woman. Until very recently, that's what the vast majority of Americans thought. Now it's considered bigotry. That this would happen after our decision in Obergefell should not have come as a surprise. Yes, the opinion of the court included words meant to calm the fears of those who cling to traditional views on marriage. But I could see, and so did the other justices in dissent, where the decision would lead. I wrote the following. I assume that those who cling to old beliefs will be able to whisper their thoughts in the recesses of their homes. But if they repeat those views in public, they will risk being labeled as bigots and treated as such by governments, employers, and schools. That is just what is coming to pass. One of the great challenges for the Supreme Court going forward will be to protect freedom of speech. Although that freedom is falling out of favor in some circles, we need to do whatever we can to prevent it from becoming a second-tier constitutional right.
Yeah, so there is Samuel Alito standing up for the freedom to be homophobic in public. It is something. It's an essential freedom that, thank God, we have people like Samuel Alito standing for that. That's pretty much what he's doing. It's like fear, like no regard for the fact that gay people just managing to get some grasp of freedom, because people forget how anti-gay as a whole the society was before 2014, 2015. People like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton like homophobic as all hell for a large portion of their kind of pre-2008 or so career. Joe Biden actually was, I think, relatively early on it, but not very early at all. But like these things, gay people really finally just getting the acknowledgement that they like really need and deserve, and I like most people in the country now, thank God, think they should have. But this is, again, a guy who has minority or supposedly minority control over, or really a lot of power, a lot of control over the direction of this country. And here he is espousing not only an incredibly bigoted view, but a view that gay people shouldn't have these kind of rights to marry that are very, very, very small percentage of the population now actually believes, which is in its own right incredibly scary.
You know, I agree, and I believe, wasn't he one of the Supreme Court justices who voted against it?
Yes. Over Gafel, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not very shocked about his view.
Yeah, and it's like what do you think this like has for like broader consequences? Because like you have to assume that like Obergefell like thank God, hopefully you can assume that like a case like that won't be coming up in the Supreme Court in the future. But like this really, I think, do you think this, James, like portends badly for other possible rulings down the road?
Yeah, I wouldn't be too shocked. I mean, now this court is much more conservative than it was at the time when this Obergefell v. Hodges was decided upon. We had a 5-4 court in the tilting of the liberals. Now it's a 6-3 court, heavily tilting for the conservatives, with 3 justices who I, without a doubt, would see voting easily, without a doubt, no, on any type of civil rights legislation similar to this. And, you know, I mean, at the same time, Samuel Alito he said something similar to this, actually. I don't know if you remember when they were originally coming up with this bill, when it was coming up close to the Supreme Court, he was saying something very similar to this. I don't know if you remember that, but
yeah, I mean, like he is pretty much like people. I think make so often they make the mistake of like, oh well, he's in the Supreme Court, he must be really smart. Like he really must know what he's doing. But like his politics aren't any more evolved than yours just because he's in the Supreme Court. He just couches the same like just hateful, regressive opinions that your like red-faced conservative uncle that you're going to be arguing against in a few weeks in Thanksgiving, if you even have a Thanksgiving at this point, but just saying it in the kind of fancy legalese that you get trained to do as someone who ends up on the Supreme Court. Like, that's all it is. And like the fact that there's kind of that barrier of entry there is also like really kind of, I think it should be eliminated. Like the court, they're almost kind of like the Wizards of Oz. Like you never hear them speak. You think they're like so mighty and powerful. A lot of Americans do, but the politics, the ideas at play are not a very high level, especially on this side. So we can see another great take from Alito about COVID restrictions. Let's hear what he has to say.
COVID restrictions have highlighted the movement toward rule by experts. Litigation about those restrictions has pointed up emerging trends in the assessment of individual rights. We have never before seen restrictions as severe, extensive,